Hello everyone, Carlisa here. I hope that this video finds you guys in good health, and hopefully everyone is staying safe out there and remaining happy and hopeful. I know it's difficult given the times that we're living in right now. It seems every time I turn on my TV, I hear more bad news for a variety of reasons. But I really do hope that wherever you guys are, that you guys are staying safe, that you're healthy, and most importantly, that you guys are remaining hopeful. I wanted to talk to you guys today just generally about my military journey. I've done several videos about the benefits of joining the Guard and the Reserve. I've done videos about the military lifestyle, and I've done a video specifically on Army ROTC, and I did a video specifically about the officer rank structures, and you be sure to check those out if you're interested in any of that stuff, and also like and subscribe to the channel. I will make sure I put up a video at least every Wednesday to help you guys learn more about that military lifestyle. And of course, if you have any videos that you would like me to put up, so if you have a special topic of interest, go ahead and just drop a comment below, and I'll be happy to record a video on that topic. So let's just get right into discussing my overall military journey. When I was in college, I decided that I wanted to join the military, and I chose the Army because I am a glutton for punishment, and I realized that the Army would be one of the most challenging branches, that I would be challenged mentally, physically, and emotionally, and that's one of the main reasons why I joined the Army. And of course, because the Army is the biggest branch, it's the branch that we all hear about when we hear about the military. And in one of my videos, of course, I encourage you all to make sure that you research all of the branches. Don't just go straight to the Army recruiting office, because I want you guys to make a decision that is an informed decision, and also I want you guys to make the decision that's best for you. And you really can't do that unless you're exploring all of your options. So make sure you're talking to people who have served. Make sure they have enough years in to speak intelligently about their service time, and go to the websites of each branch and just make sure you are doing your research. But anyway, back to the story. I decided to join the Army, and I enlisted as a 96 Bravo, which back then was the intelligence analyst. And I actually didn't even study for the ASVAB. This is how ill-prepared I was. And so make sure that you guys study for the ASVAB. I will provide a link down below in the description to a website you guys can use to study for the ASVAB. So be sure to check that out if you're going to enlist, and study for it, because the ASVAB score determines the jobs you qualify for. And fortunately, I wanted to be an intel analyst, and I scored high enough to get into that MOS, although because I didn't study, it might have been that I didn't score high enough to get into what I wanted, and I really should have taken time to study for that exam. And even if you score high enough to get the MOS you want, like I did, you're still not completely out of the water, because you might want to change jobs. You might want to switch and do another MOS, and if you don't study for the ASVAB, your score might not be high enough to switch into the other job that you want. So make sure you're studying for the ASVAB. Don't make the mistake I made by just taking the exam and just kind of tapping your toes and wishing upon a star. Make sure you're studying. And on top of that, make sure you're researching all of the branches. But anyway, back to the story again. I digress. I took the ASVAB. I qualified to be a 96 Bravo. I went to MEPS. MEPS is an incredibly intimidating process. I had no idea what to expect. The bottom line is you're going to provide medical records, you're going to fill out new medical records, you're going to have to do an eye exam, you're going to have to do an ear exam, and then at one point you kind of have to strip down and get into like a hospital gown, and they will ask you to do physical movements. It's a series of physical exercises, and when I say exercises, I don't mean like push-ups and sit-ups. They had us squat down like a duck and kind of wobble around on the floor, and I didn't understand why they were asking us to do this then. However, I do understand it now, and basically they're trying to get an idea of any ailments that you might bring into the military, any pre-existing conditions. So they're observing your movements because they want to jot down if you are flat-footed, for instance, or if you're an overpronator. And so they're studying your gait, and they're just making notes in their charts. We did have this one girl, God bless her, she could not for the life of her figure out how to do these exercises. And I could tell the medical personnel were becoming increasingly frustrated with her, and eventually this woman was just like, I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to do this. Do you guys perhaps have like an informational pamphlet that I could take home and read with maybe some drawings or pictures in it? And the lady was just like, if you can't do these exercises, you got to go. As it turns out, they do not have instructional pamphlets with pictures that help show you how to do these physical exercises. Just ask some people that have been to MEPS, and if you're worried about it, practice doing the duck waddle. I'm sure you'll figure it out. We only had one person that for the life of her could not figure out how to do these exercises, and she probably still made it into the Army at some point. One thing I will say on that is your recruiter, sorry to say this, but your recruiter will tell you to not write down any known medical conditions, and some recruiters will tell you to lie and state that you don't have a condition that you in fact do have. Just keep it 100. If you know you have asthma, you have to be upfront and honest about that, because you don't want a situation coming back on you where the military is like, okay, why did you falsify information? So be honest, and don't let the recruiter convince you to fib. Because again, you don't want something to come back on you, and you don't want it to look like you falsified information. So we'll kind of just tuck that point in there. Anyways, so after I enlisted, I decided I wanted to do ROTC because I was already in college, and why not? And I had also did some research about ROTC. And I learned through that process that if you're in ROTC, you're in a non-deployable status, and also you get a monthly stipend for being in ROTC, and that I knew would really, really help me out. I don't come from a wealthy family, so my parents weren't sending me hundreds of dollars a month to help me out in college. And so the ROTC stipend really did help me out, and I was actually able to attend drills with an Army Reserve unit while doing ROTC. It's called the Simultaneous Membership Program. If you have questions, make sure you drop those below. I do talk about this program in another video called How I Survived ROTC, must watch before you join, so be sure to check that out. Anyway, I did some research on different ROTC programs. My school did not have ROTC, so I was allowed to do ROTC at one of the neighboring schools. And again, just make sure you're doing your research if you want to do ROTC. I researched a couple different programs, chose one to join, and I commissioned as a military intelligence officer in 2005. So I was a butter bar, and at that time you had to be a butter bar for 1.5 years, or excuse me, 2 years before you could promote to first lieutenant. And now you only have to be in for 1.5 years before you can promote from second lieutenant to first lieutenant. And anyway, I was a military intelligence officer in the Army Reserve all through law school. If you guys have questions about how to balance, grad school and the reserve or guard commitment, I'm happy to talk about that in a different video. So just let me know if that's what you want to hear about, and I'll do a video on that. It was nice to have the extra change while going to law school. Oftentimes, if you're in law school, or even college for that matter, you don't really have time to take on a full-time job. Though I was able to meet my commitment to the military while going to law school, and I got that extra money in the bank, so that really helped me out a lot. Once I graduated from law school, it was just a natural transition to go from being a military intelligence officer to a judge advocate. So I took an appointment as a judge advocate. Now, I will say this, if you decide to switch branches, make sure you are learning about how that impacts your time in grade and your rank. So, when you take an appointment as a judge advocate, generally you are appointed as a first lieutenant with 1 year time in grade. And when I switched from being an MI officer to a judge advocate, I was a first lieutenant with 2 years time in grade. So I was actually stripped of one of those years and just had, they just gave me 1 year time in grade. So make sure you are reading the fine print and learning about how, branch transfer could affect you. And I branch transferred from the MI branch to the JAG branch. Anyway, I served as a judge advocate in the Army for a number of years, and once my 8-year commitment had come and gone, I thought that I would get out of the military entirely. And I had a wise friend say, hey, you know what? I'm in the Air Force and I love it. Maybe you should go Air Force instead of getting out of the military altogether. I also talked to a lot of people that said, gee, I wish I had stayed in the military. I wish I'd put in my 20. And a lot of these people are, 55, 60, 65. So what they're realizing now is they could be collecting a paycheck if only they had stayed in the military. And I would encourage you guys, if you're already in and you're thinking about getting out and you've already spent 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, I would encourage you to make sure you are analyzing the different options before you leave, because you're giving up money. Because once you hit those 20 creditable service years, you are vested in your military retirement. And if you're in the Guard or the Reserve, once you turn 60, you start getting that paycheck. And who doesn't like to be just sitting around at home and a military paycheck just arrived, and you ain't doing nothing for it because you've already put the time in. So it's just money in the bank. So explore all your options if you are thinking about leaving before you have your 20 years of service time. And when I say explore your options, what I'm really saying is think about whether you want to just go to a different branch. So you might want to just do like I did and switch from being an MI officer to being a judge advocate, of course, if you have a law degree, or you might just want to go from being a finance officer to a transportation officer. And then also think about whether you want to switch branches altogether, as in going from the Army to the Air Force or from the Navy to the Air Force. Just make sure you are considering all the different options before you give up money. I just can't stress enough how many people have come to me and they've said, gee, I really regret my decision to leave the military before putting in my 20 years. And of course, you all have circumstances and experiences that are specific to you. So at the end of the day, I just want you to do what's best for you. But again, just make an informed decision, do your research, and don't pull the trigger on anything too quickly. And I'm happy in the Air Force. I switched from the Army to the Air Force back in 2012. I'm so happy I didn't give up on the military altogether. I knew I had landed in the right place when I joined the Air Force, and they started talking about how we were going to do a chemical exercise, CBRNE, and I was like, oh gosh, I've got to go to the gas chamber again. I've already been to the gas chamber 3 or 4 times with the Army. You know, you go into the gas chamber in your Mop 4 gear, you pull off your mask, you suck in CS gas, you choke to death, and you struggle to get words out. Anyway, the airman looks at me and he's like, why would you take off your mask in the gas chamber? That's just stupid. The sky opened, angels sang, the sun shined down upon me. I thought, I am in my happy place. This is home to me, all right? And then also when I went on a field training exercise with the Air Force, no joke, the first night we were on the exercise, they actually put steaks on the grill for us. Now, back in the Army, when I would go on field training exercises, I was tearing open that brown MRE bag and eating cardboard for 3, 4, 5 days. So each branch is different. So if you don't like the branch you're in, it doesn't necessarily mean you should leave the military altogether. It might mean you just haven't found your right home yet. And there's nothing wrong with switching branches. Not many people do it, and I think it's because they don't really recognize it as a viable option, but it totally is. I did it and you can do it too, and I just don't want you to give up on the military too soon and miss out on some money, because I don't want you to be sitting around at 55, 60, 65 thinking about how you could be getting that military paycheck if only. So that's really just a broad overview of my experience. I enlisted, I became a military intelligence officer through Army ROTC. After law school, I became a JAG in the Army, and then I switched to the Air Force, and I'm a JAG in the Air Force now. I am a lieutenant colonel currently. I actually achieved the rank of lieutenant colonel at just 34, and a lot of people wonder, how the heck did you become a lieutenant colonel at 34? That does make you one of the youngest lieutenant colonels in the military if you can achieve that rank by 34. And I'm happy to talk about, you know, the promotion potential. I will throw this phrase out there, unit line vacancy. If you're in the Guard or the Reserve, it is one of the quickest ways to promote if you can slide into a unit line vacancy. But anyways, happy to talk about that more later. If you really feel like the military is for you, go ahead and go for it. Don't allow self-doubt to dissuade you. Overcome that obstacle of self-doubt, and you can overcome almost anything, because oftentimes we are our worst enemy and our harshest critic. And also drown out the naysayers. If there's people out there telling you you're not smart enough, you're not strong enough, or whatnot, be prepared to tell those fools to kick rocks with no shoes on. And just stick to your guns and keep trucking along. If you really feel deep down that this is something you should be doing, go for it. And you're already on the right track by watching these YouTube videos, and I'm sure you're doing your research through Google and also talking to people as well. Anyways, that is a very quick rundown of my journey. Again, I'm more than happy to answer specific questions. Make sure you drop them in the comment sections below. Stay safe out there, stay happy, stay hopeful, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you all so very much for the support. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys again next week.